Welcome to Networking RX, a podcast devoted to helping business professionals like you enhance your networking skills in order to become more proficient giving and receiving quality business referrals and improving the overall quality of your life and the lives of those around you. The Networking RX podcast is a production of AmSpirit Business Connections, an organization whose mission is to empower business success through networking.
One of the biggest aversions I hear from people about getting out and networking. I mean, people literally will just sit at their desk and do whatever. They don't want to go out and talk to people. And it's easy to just get caught up in your desk because we all have all sorts of paperwork and things to do. But the big aversion is I don't know what to say. I just don't know what to say. I can't carry a conversation. I hate going to those events because it's really hard for me to it's hard for me to put together things articulately. And I always tell people, listen, it's not about what you have to say. It's about what you get the other person to say. That's the most important. And it's not even just getting them talking. The important part of that is listening to what they're saying. And then from there, formulating other questions that you can listen to, formulating ways that you can help them, maybe formulating ways that you guys can work together. It just makes it a whole lot easier. It does two things. One, it puts it back on them, takes the pressure off you, puts it on them. But most people like to talk about their business and like that people are interested. So today I have it as a guest, Michael Reddington, and he is an executive resource certified forensic interviewer, and he's author of a book called The Disciplined Listening Method. And organizations around the world will hire Mike to teach their senior leaders, sales teams, HR on how to unlock the hidden value in their high value conversations. So, Mike, welcome to the program.
Great to be here, Frank. Thank you very much for having me.
Now, how did you get into this? What's your background?
I got into this completely by accident. Okay. And my background is I am a, long story short, special education school teacher turned professional investigator turned executive resource. So It's a series of opportunities that I wasn't smart enough to say no to, led to another and led to another and led to another. And here we are. But really, for me, I think the common thread was teaching throughout. That's been a common thread through every role that I've had in my career, realistically. But then also a real passion for understanding what makes people tick, why they think, act, and behave the way they do, and how we can capitalize on this universality of the human experience to achieve mutual goals.
Yeah, I mean, it's as I was preparing to do this interview, as I shared with you, and I'll share with the listeners, there's a video on your website, michaelreddington.com, where you're talking to the audience and explaining that the cognitive process of somebody buying, an employee buying into what they need to be doing at work, or a suspect truthfully admitting that they've done something, or maybe truthfully admitting that they haven't, is all the same process. And I think a lot of times people think, well, I don't have that in my brain. It's like, no, you do. You absolutely do. You talk about 7 core behaviors in your book, Disciplined Listening Method. Can you give us a quick overview of those and why you think they're valuable in building relationship?
Yes, and we'll tie it right into the networking lead-in that you used. And really, when you talk about what we get other people to say and the similarities between getting a customer to say, I'll buy it, an employee to say, I'll do it, a suspect to say, I didn't, or as I love to hear you say, truthfully say, I didn't do it, because the truth is the only thing that matters. Really, what we're asking people to do in all of these scenarios and beyond is share sensitive information under vulnerable circumstances in the face of consequences. And that's true in a networking event as well, because as we all know, a consequence could be stuck in a conversation with somebody that I don't want to be stuck in. That's a very real consequence.
Yeah.
I could be doing something else with my time. There could be somebody else I'd rather be speaking with. So when we're looking to have a conversation with somebody, and among the goals is to achieve this sensitive information under the vulnerable circumstances in the face of consequences. The first two core behaviors are understand how this conversation can get us closer to achieving both our tactical and strategic goals. That's number one. And number two is build our communication strategies from our perceived weaknesses instead of our perceived strengths. So from a planning standpoint, if I'm going to go into any type of this networking, relationship building opportunity, I talk for a living and I don't enjoy doing these things. So I'm on board 100%. But I experienced a shift in success, like anything in life, when I had a mindset shift. And that mindset shift wasn't, okay, who am I going to talk to? How many leads am I going to generate? It turned into how much can I learn from how many people today? And when I go in with that mindset shift, now I'm not necessarily selling my business, but I can be more curious as I'm engaging with people, which generally makes them more curious about me. Yeah. And now instead of listening for how do I get Frank to buy my business or my services or my product, now it is what can I learn about Frank so I can surprise him later with unsolicited and unexpected value that might have nothing to do with me, that begets this longer term relationship. So that mindset reframe went a long way. And then from a preparation standpoint, not going in thinking, well, I'm the best in this area at my business, so people should want to do business with me. Like for me in particular, who got out of bed this morning and thought to themselves, you know who I really need to hire? A former interrogator. Like, nobody wakes up thinking that. So instead of trying to push as to why I'm so great or my business or my product or my services, whatever, instead it's how do I capitalize on my perceived weaknesses? Well, people might not fully understand what I do. They might not want to talk to me. They might not want to be approached in the salesy way, like all of these things. Okay, great. So let's use that to my advantage. Let me surprise them. Let me show more curiosity. Let me make it about them. All the things that you said in the beginning, which leads to the third behavior, which is be patient and let the conversation come to you. We used to say in interrogation, you don't get cool points for fast confessions. You get cool points for honest and full confessions. So I don't want to rush to a point. I want to let the conversation develop because listening equals learning. And the more somebody else talks, the more I listen, the more I learn, the more I can start building relationships, reciprocal relationships over time, which becomes so important. Now, in that, as we're observing, we want to make sure we stay away from any of the mythological attempts to capture somebody in an untruth. Basically, what we want to observe for solely is somebody comfort level changing? Does a topic appear to make them more or less comfortable? If it does, let's adapt. Do we want to spend less time on the uncomfortable topic, more time on the comfortable topic? Does that give us intelligence that we can use later on in the relationship? The next behavior is potentially the most important thread all the way through. We've got to help people save face and protect their self-image. People don't want to feel inadvertently attacked, put under the spotlight, judged. So we want to maybe make light of a situation, maybe illustrate how lots of people here are uncomfortable or not sure how much to say or don't want to get trapped in a conversation. If you say it with a smile, I'm sure like everybody else, you probably don't want to get trapped into a conversation you don't want to be in. That will get a smile, a nod, a yes in return, and we'll start building rapport. And then the real key behavior is the last one for this conversation, which is build relationship value by following up after the conversation. Most of us have been taught the basics of active listening, which are great, and we should do these things, but that makes somebody feel like we listened in real time. It doesn't prove to them that we listened. The only way we prove to somebody that we listened, that they are valuable to us, is by following up with them after the conversation. And one of the best ways to do that is to follow up with information that is valuable to them, but not obviously valuable to us. So anytime I'm working with community-focused organizations, it could be the Rotary group, it could be a real estate agent, it could be an insurance group, it could be a group of restaurants, people who are community-focused. When you follow up with them for the very first time, often it should have nothing to do with your business. If you're talking to somebody who's new to the area, it should be all about what you learned about them. Oh, their kids play sports? Here are all the local sports youth information. Oh, they like to go for walks in the park. Here are the trails. They like the theater. Here's the theater. Follow up with this information so they think, oh, wow, Frank really cared about me. Now, after they respond, then you can come up with your business response and start to cultivate that relationship if you think it's appropriate. But as you said in your beginning, it's not about what do I need to say. It's about what can I learn? And then how does what I learn become the foundation for a mutually beneficial relationship?
I love it. I love it. And it's, I keep thinking that, okay, I'm going to run out of people to talk to about these sorts of things, but it's just like every year there's a fresh crop, or it's just, and I don't know who's teaching people these bad behaviors, if you will. Anyhow, do you have some examples you could share? You threw that. What you just did was great. You talked about mythological listening. I forget, but you threw out a lot. I think if you could kind of give us some examples of how this discipline listening method has been impactful. Certainly, obviously it sounds like you have some sort of criminal, not criminal background, like you're a criminal.
You got me.
Yeah. No, you have some experience in that realm, and then you also have experience in the business realm, and there are certainly examples there you could share with us.
Yeah, and we can do plenty. We could take multiple episodes just doing examples, but to hit a couple of quick ones and sort of tie them together. When you talk about using the intelligence that other people provide to you to create unexpected moments to build rapport and create that foundation for relationships. Many years ago, I was called in to do a fraud interrogation by the HR team. I was told that the HR director felt like she couldn't do the interview, wouldn't be successful, so I had to come in. So I come in, I'm talking to the gentleman who is suspected of the fraud, and from an interrogator's perspective, I feel like I have him on the precipice of confessing, but I can't get him over the line. And it's starting to kind of bother me a little bit. It's like, why can't I get him there? But I realized that he was wearing a necklace with boxing gloves on it. For the record, I don't think he was actually a boxer, but he was wearing a necklace with boxing gloves on it. So I use the analogy that when you're training for a fight, it's a long training camp. There's a lot that we have to go through. But at some point, you might not want to do leg day. So you skip leg day once, and then you skip it 2 or 3 more times. And then you get into the fight. And in the later rounds, you lose the strength in your legs. So you lose the strength in your punches. And the next thing you know, you end up losing a fight on the cards that you otherwise could have won. But it's because we skipped the leg day. So it's important we capture every opportunity we have when we have it to influence the outcome of any situation. And right after using that analogy, he starts to confess. And during his confession, he tells me that the thing he's most scared of is what the HR director is going to say. Very inquisitively, I ask why. And he says, because he babysits her children.
Oh.
Yeah. And what did Paul Harvey say? And that's the rest of the story. Now we can put it all together. So instead of just focusing on you committed fraud and you need to tell me the truth, which for the record, realistically never works. It was looking for opportunities to build an unexpected relationship. And in this case, it happened to be a chain he was wearing that created it for us. In a business circumstance, one of my absolute favorite things to do is allow other people to build rapport for you. So if it's obvious that I'm trying to build rapport, it could very well work. Or people might sniff it out and believe it to be disingenuous even when it's not. But I believe in my bones that the most effective way to maintain control of nearly any conversation is to allow the other person to feel like they are in control. So if the other person feels like they're doing the rapport building, well, I'm getting rapport, which is what I want. They feel like they're in control. Their guard is lower, which is going to give me more opportunities in the conversation. So a year or so ago, building new relationships with a new client, one of the executives I was going to be doing some, I guess you could call it change management work with, I did my due diligence on and found out that he lived in the same small town in New Hampshire that I had lived in at one point. But I know that if when I meet him, I say, hey man, nice to meet you. I saw you used to live in this town. I'm going to feel like a stalker to him. And that's not going to help me build rapport. That's going to put up walls. So instead, I'm going to keep this in my back pocket. And sure enough, over a cup of coffee, he says to me, so where are you from? I say,
there's an invitation.
Currently live in North Carolina. I don't go right to New Hampshire because that's going to be too obvious, right?
Right.
So I say I currently live in North Carolina. That word currently opens the door. His choice. If he walks through, I'm gold. If he doesn't, I'll find another opportunity. So he says, oh, currently, where were you before? Thank you. Now I go backwards. Well, my wife actually is from Alabama. We met in Florida. It's a long story there. But prior to North Carolina, I lived in the Chicago area. Prior to that, it was the New York City area. Prior to that, it was Connecticut and Massachusetts. And I really grew up in New Hampshire. His head snaps. New Hampshire, where? Same thing. I don't go right for the town. I work it in the middle. I lived all over the place. And I name a half a dozen different towns in New Hampshire I lived in. And when I hit on the one that he lived in, no way. I live there too. As a matter of fact, I have family there. Now we have instant rapport.
Yeah.
He feels like he created it, not me. So by the end of the conversation, honestly, I'm getting a lot of information that surprised me from an initial conversation with somebody, but he feels like he's in control because he's the one who led to the rapport, not necessarily me. But by doing the due diligence up front, I was able to recognize an opportunity that allowed somebody else to build the rapport that I needed to advance the relationship.
I find that people are, not everybody, but generally are too impatient. Mm-hmm. How would you coach somebody? How would you advise somebody to try and just take a deep breath and play the long game?
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Yeah. I don't know. That's because I'll talk to people about these things and it's like, all right, I'll go do it. It's like, you got to relax, you know, and I love what you just shared. It's like, all right, I can come right out with it right now. And we live in the same town, or we can just kind of we can kind of dance over here. And
so a couple of things. Number one, understand, and I know you do, that time is the enemy of empathy. Anytime we prioritize time over quality, quality suffers. That's true in production. It's true in design. It is true in relationships. So as soon as we start rushing things, the stress levels change, the trust levels change, the dynamics of the conversation change. So time is the enemy of empathy. Let the conversation come to you. How do we do that? We prioritize outcomes. So if I go into a conversation and I prioritize my own discomfort, well, I don't really feel comfortable. I need to get rid of that discomfort as fast as possible. I'm going to rush into something that's likely not going to be helpful. If I go into a conversation prioritizing how quickly this conversation ends because I got to be somewhere else, I'm going to rush into something it's not going to be helpful. But if I can prioritize the outcome, and I can say, okay, going into this conversation, understanding who I'm speaking with, and the potential initiatives that we can create or achieve together based on the combination of the people and goals, initiatives we can achieve. How valuable is this conversation potentially to me? Well, now that I'm focusing on the outcomes instead of my discomfort or my time, I can be more patient because instead of me trying to foster or fabricate or generate this relationship, I'm trying to gather intelligence. And in order for me to gather intelligence, I need to listen. And I need to listen for a period of time. So understanding time is the enemy of empathy, prioritizing outcomes over all else, and understanding that oftentimes, many ways, I honestly believe this is something that we develop by doing it. The ability to remain quiet is a legitimate display of confidence, not cockiness, not braggadocio, not any of that stuff.
Yeah.
And also, the longer we remain quiet, the more confident we become over time. Because now I've dealt with that discomfort associated with silence enough times that I understand it's just part of the conversation. So it's really hard, as you've seen, just to get it through somebody's head, this is what you need to do. But I feel like if we can understand that prioritizing time is counterproductive to nearly any other goal we're looking to achieve. That if we focus on the outcome, now we're willing to listen differently. We're willing to behave differently because now the outcome is more important than how we feel. And then practicing, allowing the silence to go, allowing somebody to have allow other people to have control. And I would love your thoughts on this. because I don't really enjoy networking at all. I am an absolute introvert. I love talking about what I do, but you put me in a group of people and I'm the guy in the corner drinking Guinness, observing everybody else. That's my role in the room, unless I force myself out of it. One of the ways that I force myself out of it is I just look at it as one giant experiment. Yeah. Within a reasonable degree of certainty, I'm not going to say or do anything that's metaphorically fatal. Right. I'm not going to say anything that is so off color, unprofessional, out of line that I'm just going to ruin my ability to do business in this industry, town, whatever. Just look at it as an experiment. I'm going to try this with this person. If it works, great. If it doesn't, chalk it off the list. I'll go try something else with the next person. And now by looking at it as an experiment or a group of experiments, it becomes a little bit more entertaining. I can justify or rationalize away the failure a lot easier. It doesn't hit my self-image as hard because I was just trying to see if that would work. And now it gives me the opportunity to make more of these connections because I've almost gamified it as opposed to focusing on how uncomfortable it makes me feel.
Yeah. Well, truth be told, I'm an introvert too. We're recording on a Friday. I can't wait to just go home and turn on Netflix. And my wife is much the same. And so I what you're saying resonates. How I approach it is because sometimes you can avoid it, right? I was at my niece's wedding. It was downstairs in a bar in the basement, really nice basement area of this bar. I'm just going to go upstairs and watch football because I don't want to fight having a conversation over the music. And, I'm not really a drinker, so I'm not getting into any of that stuff. But if I'm in a situation where, okay, I really can't be off in the corner, and I need to engage, it is a lot of listening. I tell people, I try to put on what I call the cloak of invincibility, not invisibility, but invincibility. And what that is leaning in and really trying to figure out, okay, how can I help this person? I'm not going to sell them. It's not the appropriate place. It's not the appropriate time. But what is there about them that I can help? And that just gives me confidence that, nobody's going to reject me because I'm just trying to help somebody. You get rejected when you're trying to sell something, when you're trying to get something. But when you're just trying to truly, tell me about this, hey, there's an article. When I get back to the office, I'm going to send it to you, that's how I approach those sorts of things.
Love it. I couldn't agree more. And even that example of there's an article, a great way to build a relationship with somebody is to pick up on a little detail, something they said that might have been like a throwaway statement, might have seemed insignificant at the time, but it clicks in your head because you went in with the goal. I want to learn and I want to help people. Oh, there's an unexpected opportunity to help somebody. So now you go back, you send them the article, you send them a podcast link, you send them a video, a blog or whatever. And it's, during our conversation, I heard you say XYZ. It made me think of this, thought it might be helpful. Have a great day. And it's not have a great day. Call me when you need XYZ. It's have a great day. That's it. Have a good weekend. Stay warm. Stay safe. Boom. That's it. Get it out there. And now that starts to develop the relationship because it's surprising. Wait a minute. You heard me say that? I'm not even sure I remember saying that. And you cared enough about me and the minutes we spent together to take more minutes out of your life to follow up and help me. Even if they never read the article, it still creates the perception that you were looking for.
Yeah, no, I have always found that if you follow up, double back, whatever you want to say, handwritten note, email makes it so easy, right? And I'll try to put some distance between the meeting and when I might follow up, even if I have something right. Oh, I'm chomping at the bit. I can't wait to do this. Wait till Monday. Just wait till Monday. Hey, over the weekend, I was thinking about what you had said, and it just dawned on me that I have this article, or here's somebody I know that's in Miami, Florida, that you should meet. And they're just taken back by the fact that there was somebody's out there thinking on them. And I love the point. No, I'm not going to try and sell. It's too soon. It's going to happen. It'll happen. Well, let's shift gears as we kind of wind up here. Let's, talk about the things you're doing. You've got the book, the Disciplined Listening Method. And again, watching some of the videos of you, you have various programs out there. How could the listeners help you? How could they get a hold of you?
I appreciate you asking. Really, for the listeners, if they're looking to dive much deeper into the topic, the science, the art, the integration of the non-confrontational approaches with the business communication research and best practices, disciplinedlistening.com is the best place to go. That's where they can sample a chapter of the book, learn more about the book. So many more resources there they can find. I appreciate you mentioned michaelreddington.com. If they're looking for more conversations and engagements with me directly, that's where they can go to learn much, much more directly there. Inquasive.com, INQUASIVE.com is where they can learn more about the programs that our clients seek us out for and ask us to teach to, as you mentioned at the beginning, their senior leadership team, their sales teams, their HR teams, and more, particularly around the topics of leadership communication, sales negotiation, candidate interviewing, but really teach them how to engage with people at a level, as we've discussed today, really to help people feel compelled to give us the information we need in order to build these relationships and achieve these goals together. I'm really not on social media. I get yelled at for that on a regular basis. But if people are looking to connect with me, I'm on LinkedIn, Michael Reddington CFI. I would be very happy to connect with anybody there and continue the conversation.
All right, sounds good. Well, I appreciate your time today. This has been great.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AMSPIRIT.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.